Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm showing you step by step how I made this soft and fluffy vanilla sponge cake. So let's get started. Okay guys, I'm starting off with 5 large eggs. Before you separate the eggs, you want to make sure you're using a clean bowl. This is a very important step when you separate your egg whites. Otherwise, your egg whites will not whip up into stiff peaks. So I'm starting to separate the eggs, and you want to be very careful when you separate your egg yolk from the egg whites. It's very important that you do not get any egg yolks into the egg whites. So here I'm adding my egg yolks into a separate bowl. Okay, so here I have my egg whites, and I'm just going to set this aside to work on the egg yolks. I'm just going to take my whisk and break up the egg yolks. Next we have our sugar here, and I'm just going to remove 1/4 cup of sugar, and this will be for the egg whites when we whip them up later. Next, I'm going to add my sugar into the egg yolks, and I'm just going to take my whisk, and you want to mix this around until it becomes light pale yellow. So this is the right consistency and color you want your egg yolks to be, a light pale yellow. Next, I'm adding my vegetable oil, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick mix. Here I have my milk, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that to the egg yolk mixture. Next, I'm going to add my pure vanilla extract, and make sure you're using a good quality pure vanilla extract and not the imitation extract. Okay, once you have all your wet ingredients together, we're going to start with the cake flour, and I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder to the cake flour, and you want to give it a quick mix. Okay, I'm just going to set my cake flour aside and work on the egg whites. I'm taking my mixing bowl and attaching it to the stand mixer. I'm going to mix on high speed until they become frothy. Next, I'm going to add cream of tartar. The cream of tartar is going to keep the egg whites stable and reach stiff peaks. The next step is to add the sugar gradually to the egg whites. So after a couple minutes of mixing the egg whites, you can see how it's now changed into almost like a fluffy white cloud. And I'm just going to show you what a stiff peak looks like. If you take the whisk and pull it up out of the egg whites, you can see at the very end it's holding its peak. So our egg whites are now ready, and I'm just going to take the egg whites and set them aside and work on the flour mixture. So I'm taking my cake flour and sifting half of the flour into the egg mixture. I'm using a whisk to carefully fold in the cake flour. You could also use a spatula. You only want to mix until the flour comes together. Do not overmix, or the vanilla sponge cake will come out very dense, dry, and rubbery. Once all your flour has been added, we're going to move on to the egg whites. And you're going to add your egg whites in 3 additions. And you're just going to gently fold the egg whites. You can use a spatula as well. I decided to use a whisk. It's very important that you gently fold in the egg whites. Otherwise, if you mix too much, the egg whites will deflate and your cake will not rise. So the vanilla sponge cake batter is ready. I'm taking my spatula and just running it alongside the bowl to make sure all the ingredients are mixed in together. Here I have an 8-inch round springform pan, and at the very bottom I've lined it with parchment paper, but I did not grease the pan. It's very important to not grease the pan when making a sponge cake, otherwise the cake will not rise in the oven. So I'm taking a knife and running it through the cake batter just to make sure there's no air pockets. You want to bake your vanilla sponge cake at 350 degrees for about 35 to 45 minutes. Once the vanilla sponge cake has come out of the oven, go ahead and place it on a cooling rack. You want to go ahead and flip the cake over just to let it finish cooling. This will prevent the sponge cake from deflating in the pan. Once the cake has cooled, you can go ahead and take a knife and run it alongside the cake just to make sure the cake releases well from the springform pan. So there you have it, guys, a simple and easy vanilla sponge cake that anybody can make. You can use this simple vanilla sponge cake recipe for a strawberry shortcake or a trifle. This sponge cake has a very light and fluffy texture and a great vanilla flavor. Here I'm just trimming off some of the top of the cake that caramelized in the oven. You can get about 3 layers out of this vanilla sponge cake. So here I'm just showing you how I cut this vanilla sponge cake into 3 layers. And this way you'll be able to see how light and fluffy this sponge cake is. Sponge cakes are perfect for creamy fillings, fruity fillings, or whipped cream frosting. You can see how soft and moist this cake is. Make sure you stick around for next week's video so you can see how I decorated this delicious sponge cake. I hope you all found this video helpful and give this recipe a try. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.